Making a living can sometimes wear us out, grind us down, and dull our senses. So for a keen mind and a sharp contributive edge that can make it all easier and better and more productive, let's take some time to sharpen our axe. Stay with us right now for Life Talk. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, it's good to see you again. You've either surfed to or purposely selected, because you were here last week perhaps, Life Talk, which is a selection of verbal essays done in a television format. And we're now into a series where we're delighted to have these guests, and glad to have you on board. Last week we were talking about stratisizing, and I'm not going to review, because if you'd like to see what happened last week and you weren't with us, we'll give you a phone number at the end. You can call us, and perhaps we can send you a tape, and we can catch you up, or we'll send you a ticket to a live performance of what we're doing. But I do want to proceed because there's an awful lot of material to cover, and we don't want to be too redundant with these delightful people. Last week we get to the point where we identified that this capacity, this purpose, if you would be unfulfilled until it hit a proper environment. And we went ahead and got off the edge of this and filled this sponge with water and reminded ourselves that that's all that was going to happen. For there to be anything else occurring, there has to be a consideration of all these other capacities around us. In other words, what has to happen next is you need to come out of here and contribute, give away, teach, convey anything and everything that you have learned. Now, you haven't lost any stature, which is what we were trying to acquire. Haven't lost any stature, but now you can go back to that same environment and assimilate so much more out of it that you otherwise would never get. A lot of people will accumulate information in an environment, and then they stagnate with that. Notice they contain it, they hide it, rather than contributing it, and wonder why nothing happens. Because you can come out and contribute to other people. How many sponges could I favorably impact if I had them here? Hundreds. Or I could devote myself to one or two and make all the difference in the world. Go back once again and get information out of that environment. Look, it just soaks in. Get information out of the environment I could otherwise not get. It's the contributing that makes the difference. Okay, after a while, you got to stretch, you got to scratch, you got to work at getting something out of there. Maybe time now for what? Move on to another plane to do something else. This is natural. This is what occurs. If you don't move out and up, however, and there's a tendency sometimes to satisfy ourselves, to settle in, we live in a society where hopefully there'll be a Horatio Alger moment. We all wait for that time, perhaps, when there's a chance that's offered to us. Someone comes along and said, "You, come with me. I've seen what you do. I've seen how you apply and how you commit and how you apply yourself and what your attitude is. Come with me and we'll do something grand together." And so we go. In other words, to capture the stature, there's a three-step process. We might as well go ahead and get started on it now. The first portion is commitment. Commitment. Now, once the commitment is made, there will always be, there is no way there cannot be, an absorption, and assimilation, and accumulation, and or a acquisition of one of two or three things. One is knowledge, which is of the mind. Because whenever you or I enter into an environment, it's going to have a psychic impact on us. There's a language, there's a technology there that we're going to assimilate, we're going to learn just by being there. There's going to be an impact on our mind. And or there may be a skill developed, which comes from the body. It might be a verbal skill or a visual one, or it might be something that you do with your hands, but there will be a skill that will develop just by being there. Okay? And power will begin to flow in your direction. You begin to accumulate power. Some of that comes from authority, which oftentimes will be delegated to you by precedents, people who've gone on before you, who are in command, in control, however you want to put that, and they will say, we would like you to handle this, and they'll give you authority. Or you may, this comes from above, or you may acquire some celebrity, which will be given to you by those who follow you. Now, if you distinguish yourself in an environment, there will be people around who will acknowledge that, and they will grant you celebrity, and with that comes authority and power. Usually this comes from below and peers. And as always, the acquisition of what? Money. Money is power. Money. As ways you earn more money, people will pay more attention to you. Now, is it possible to buy yourself stature with just the money? Of course. As a person could inherit a lot of money, actually build a plant that would provide employment for a lot of people, and he would be considered to have a certain stature in our society. Okay? That's just the way that is. We live in a capitalistic environment. However, most of these things can be earned right from the bottom up. Now, there's a limitation here. When this begins to occur, there must be the contribution. It's time in our society that we start thinking in terms of contribution instead of competition. I don't know how long ago it was that I recognized that competition in a socioeconomic environment creates mediocrity. Fascinating. Now, in the sporting event, that may not be true. You've got to you've got to compete to win, and you get better and better, presumably. However, even there are these contributive moments. People who excel in those environments are contributive personalities, and we can get into that perhaps a little later on. For example, in order to be the winner, to be the star, to be the champion, if you're competing, how much better do you have to be than the other guy? Just a little. Just a little. In other words, if you say you got 100 officers competing for a position in the company, in order to be number one, you got to be just that much better than number two. Okay? If you're contributing, however, for example, it was back in the 80s. I went to work for a funeral securities company, and they assigned me an office in Dallas, Texas. And we went there to study, to absorb, to analyze, to adopt that business and to make a contribution to it. Within, I'd say, 6 to 7 months, our office was doing 300% more than the number two office. 300%. We wouldn't have done that if we were competing. Wouldn't have to. Because we're already, some of our staff members were already number one, number two, number three in the company, and our office was leading. Everybody was excited about us, and we were ignoring it practically. We were focusing on the process. How do exactly we do this? The idea was to make it, and we were sharing everything with everybody, and there were people who were wondering what we were up to, who were actually aggravated by that. So why do they do that? And that's always been that way. However, within a year and a half, in a 27-year-old company, we were being overtured to be the vice president in charge of sales. That caused a lot of difficulty, in a lot of people's minds, a lot of politicking and posturing, but none of it mattered because the contribution had been made. The stature had been captured because of the process. Follow? It's going to happen that way every single time. Contribution, what is that? Well, it's doing more than you get paid for. It's extending yourself, being aware of the difference that you can make. It might mean nothing more than picking up a cigarette butt you didn't drop, clean a smudge from a window that you didn't make, assisting someone else in finishing their job when they get overwhelmed. You know what I mean? It'll just be a contributive entity in that environment, and it can make a difference. People will notice. It's inevitable. I'm not saying it's always the most popular thing. It's always the most progressive thing. There will be those who wonder what you're up to, who will be aggravated. I have a son, Ross, I don't mind talking about, who in Sacramento, California, had 2 occasions where his life was threatened because of his excellence. in his job. In other words, he was the type that would go early, stay late, throw himself into the work, do the job. In other words, when Ross went to work for a company, he became the company because he thought like the company. You know, the welfare of everyone in it, especially the company. And we have names for people like that sometimes. You know, they get more and more sophisticated. It starts out as teacher's pet and apple polisher, and as we get older, they get more sophisticated and physiological in nature, you know, this type of thing. But contribution, I don't think we have to spend a lot of time on this. We know what that's about. This is going to occur. Where we need to spend our time is here. There's a problem here. A lot of misunderstandings. A lot of misunderstandings. Commitment to a lot of people means being trapped, being confined, being restricted. And it's just the opposite. Just the opposite. Commitment frees us totally. It's fascinating. It's been my experience that committed people are left alone. You know how a lot of people in their lives always have things come up? You know, they make dates with you and they don't show up. You know, something came up. Yeah, that doesn't happen to committed people. It's really kind of fascinating. There's a power in the word that's rather unique. For example, just the use of the word. If you say you had planned to spend the evening with the kids and someone calls and says they're going for pizza because Charlie's in from Chicago and he wants to see you and, boy, you're the life of the party, why don't you come on over? You say, well, I told the kids I'd help them with the homework tonight. They'll prevail upon you. You know, they'll try to get into your act and say, well, you can still help them. Come on over, have some pizza, you know. Or you can say, well, I promised the kids I was going to help them with the homework. Or I'd planned. You know, I mean, they'll still prevail. But I'll tell you, if you develop a reputation for keeping commitments, all you have to say is what? Boy, it sounds like maybe more fun than what I'm going to do, but I'm committed for the evening. You don't even have to tell them what the commitment is. And they'll back off. People back away from committed people. They let you do what it was you're committed to. There's a power in the word itself. It's fascinating. And perhaps we'll have time to give a lot of illustrations on how that actually has worked. In order for that to be effective, you're going to play with the word commitment. We need to get a good definition for it. We need to have an agreement what that means. And I'm submitting that commitment means this is what I'm going to do. Now you could put a period there, or maybe an exclamation mark, you know. But I'm going to suggest something, a comma. What a comma there. This is what I'm going to do, or die. Whoa! Now we're getting serious. Now let me come over here and parenthetically state, you're not going to die. That's okay. But when I say that, whose attention am I really trying to catch? Subconscious mind. Subconscious mind is a survival mechanism. Its sole job is to keep you alive. And if the conscious mind, which is essentially its interpreter, and really on a level it understands that it's its master, when the conscious mind says, this is what I'm going to do or die, the subconscious mind at least will go, well, what is it you're going to do? What, you know? And it's going to get anxious. It's going to send out little messages all over your body, queasy stomach, sweaty palm, shaky hand. You know what I mean? There's going to be some, I call them rats and roaches. Go all over your body. It doesn't want to do it. And it doesn't matter what the commitment is, if that's what you mean. You know what I mean? It'll get anxious. And then if you proceed and complete, it goes, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. Then you say, oh, I'm going to make another commitment. And it goes, what? And it'll send out its rats and roaches again. You know what I mean? And then you go ahead and do it and complete it. And those rats and roaches become bunnies and butterflies. So, that's okay. And every time you make the commitment with this, you're going to go through this little, it's like a psychic, emotional exercise. And it's a dynamic thing to occur. Commitment. This is what I'm going to do or die. If you're going to be that serious about it, then you'd be careful of your commitments, wouldn't you? I mean, you've got to be careful. And so you say, well, I'm about to make a commitment. Got some ideas for you. There should be a consideration phase here. Consideration. In that, what is it that I'm about to do here? Yeah. Why am I going to do this? What good can come out of it? What harm might result from it? You know what I mean? Just consider what it is you're about to do. And in that consideration phase, there's some things you might consider, and that is, can this commitment be compartmentalized? Compartmentalized. Now, can I break it down rather than one great big commitment, breaking it up into little commitments that I can more easily complete? Can it be compartmentalized? How concise can I be about it? In other words, just exactly what is it I'm going to do, and when will I know I'm completed? I mean, how concise can I be? Can I coordinate? What can I do to coordinate to get this commitment done? Coordinate in this case means who can I bring into the act? That's who can I enroll? What book can I read? What tape can I listen to? What video can I watch? What seminar can I attend? What specialist can I go to and buy dinner? You know, and then pick their brain. What can I do to coordinate this effort? And can I find a collaborator? Now, can I collaborate here? Collaborate. What that means, can I get someone to do it with me? Safety in numbers, support them, they support me, get on through this thing. Can I collaborate? When will I know I'm complete? What is the completion? What will that look like to me? And how will I, and this is terribly important, how will I celebrate it? There's a little commitment, a little celebration, a little psychic high five maybe. Big commitment, big celebration. I mean, get out and get a license, have a parade, get right in front of it, you know, have a good time. But yeah, now how will I celebrate? Then after you've taken care of all this, then there's a moment of choice. Now you have to choose to do it. Whatever that is, you choose. No one else should make a commitment for you. At the moment of choice, there should be a contract that's tendered here. And for a contract to be fulfilling, it should have three parts to it. One should be a date. It helps so much to know when you started something. You know, this is the moment that I said I was going to do this. And to be able to move away from that and celebrate that distance, that time, very, very important. Understanding exactly what it is that we're doing, understanding. And third, of course, a signature. Now, we all know there are some major commitments that we make that require a signature and a witness and a notary public. I mean, it's a major ceremony, and we're familiar with that. And those are the commitments we're likely to keep. Well, you can do that with the little ones as well. Date, understanding, and signature. Then you commence. You commence. And you continue. Continue is terribly important. You have to continue past the initial enthusiasm. The initial enthusiasm gives you all kinds of energy and exuberance, excitement. But once that passes, you're kind of on your own now. And during that period, if you got to develop some intellect, you know, some authority, some skill, yeah, some knowledge in order to continue. Past the boredom, past the frustration, past the setbacks, the disappointment, the despair, perhaps. Just continue to the point of completion. Do your celebrating, because it's right down here again. Celebrate. And then what should you do next? Make another commitment. You know, start all over again. Something fascinating, that if you make a commitment and it's properly made, you can enjoy a completion. We've done quite a bit of research in this arena, and we find that masses of people have a lot of incompletes in their life. Does that sound familiar? In other words, a partially dug hole that was going to be a fish pond, you know, a stack of newspapers that were going to get recycled that are still there. You know what I mean? Yeah, partially cleaned garages and unfinished books. I mean, we've all done this stuff. Yeah, a lot of incompletes. And there seems to be some correlation to death about that. In other words, if you have a lot of incompletes in your life, you need to examine your relationship with death and dying. Because if somehow you can get more comfortable with that, you will probably have more completions. It's a subconscious situation in that the subconscious mind sees a completion as an ending, and in other words, a potential death. It's over. And so it doesn't like to complete stuff. So there is this battle going on all the time. And not until you get conscious of it can you make that shift. And Let me give you an illustration of this. Is 9:05 a.m. Tuesday, September 2nd, 1972. That's pretty precise. And I did that for the very last time. What did I do? Well, first thing comes up, you quit smoking. Okay. Well, I'd quit smoking before and started many times. It's easy to quit smoking. And somehow or other, I want to do it different this time. And so I figured, okay, it's going to take some commitment. And so what I did, I found someone to collaborate with. There was a beautiful woman in Dallas, Texas, a friend of the family, who had no business smoking, no more business certainly than I did. I was not a good smoker. I'd have 2 or 3 going at the same time. You've heard of smoke-filled rooms? I could fill a mansion. And back in those, what's this kind of clothes that would catch on fire? What is it? Yeah, polyester. I mean, I was a potential walking blaze. You get well, you could go on fire, and I didn't stain. She stained. She had no, and she'd cough and stuff. And I was wheezing, and so it's time to quit. So I said, okay, will you work with me on this? She said, okay. I said, we've got to decide what we're going to do here. Let's be concise about what we're up to. I'm not going to quit smoking. I mean, that didn't work. How else can we put this? And so we agreed that we would not put a cigarette in our lips. That's a pretty good start. It's hard to smoke through your nose. It's uncomely. You can do it, but I mean, it's... how would I know that? It's uncomely and it's just inappropriate. So we decided not to put cigarettes in our lips. We also gave each other permission to do it any time we wanted to. On the hour. Now, right on the hour, if you really wanted a cigarette, we gave each other permission to have one. Okay? However, if it was like 10 minutes to the hour and we had the urge, what do we have to do? We had to wait right till the hour. And then if we got past the hour, we'd have to wait for the other hour. Follow what I'm saying? In other words, see, it's kind of tough just to not put cigarettes in your lips, but it's easy not to put a cigarette in your lip right now. We can get past that moment, and then we'd go on to the next one. And that's a cause of celebration because that was a compartmentalization. So you arm yourself with completions and celebrations. We compartmentalized, we were concise. Oh, coordinating, interesting. We read some books and what have you, and her husband knew an oncologist in Parkland Hospital in Dallas, Texas. That's where they took President Kennedy, remember, when he was shot? And he allowed us to meet some of his patients who were in their latter days. These people were dying. It was over. Emphysema, lung cancer. Boy, that'll give you a pause for thought to be around that, especially emphysema. We saw some lung tissue, autopsied lung tissue. You go, does our lungs look like that? And said, if you've been smoking a year or more, they do. Boy, that'll make you think. Then some slides and what have you. And all of that was contributive. But the thing that really helped, that day, the doctor said, have either of you quit before? I sense that you have. And he said, oh, yeah. He said, when did you start? And we weren't exactly sure where he was leading with that question. I don't remember. He said, well, I'll tell you. It was 1 of 3 times, probably. Right after a big meal, after you've had an alcoholic drink, or after you've had sex. And that rang a bell. And so, and he says, and the reason for that is that all of those activities increase the blood pressure ever so slightly. And smoking, what? Reduces it. And so after that, there's a physiological, almost pathological desire for the cigarette. But if you can wait a few moments, that'll pass. And boy, did that help just to know that that was happening. I mean, and that's what comes out of coordination, the accumulation of more and more information that supports you in what you want to do. So here we are, the consideration, compartmentalize, concise, coordinate, collaborate, completions, a lot of those, and all kinds of celebrations. Dinners out and prizes and one thing and another and a lot of high fives, and we chose to do it. We chose to do it. How do I remember the exact day and time and everything? Because we had all that clear. This was a big deal. We knew exactly when we started, and it was so nice to be able to move away from that time and that date, knowing that that had been accomplished. And then we commenced, and we continued. I continued. I guess it was about 8 years later. 8 years later, I had moved to Pennsylvania, and I got wind that Beverly was putting cigarettes in her lips. And I didn't call her, and I didn't call her on it. Just let it go, and I continued. On my 10th anniversary, I wrote her a letter thanking her for having made the commitment with me and sure that we're both better off for the practice, and didn't make any mention of her habit. And I heard, second party, that when she received the letter, she stopped putting cigarettes in her lips. Okay? And so that comes back around. Completions, certainly a lot of celebrations. Another example, Kentucky Derby. Does this happen? You betcha. What's that celebration like down here? Oh, the garland of roses around the horse's neck, the jockeys, up there celebrating, and there's a winner's circle. There's flash bulbs, and where are they from? I mean, every press outfit in the world practically is there. The mayor stops by, the governor drops in, the president calls. There's a parade and a party. That's a big, big deal. You know what I mean? That's a major celebration. And yet all of this occurred. Was there a consideration put into that effort in the beginning? Oh, yeah, a lot of consideration. A lot of compartmentalization. They have 1-year races and 2-year races, getting these horses ready. They were concise about what it was they wanted to do and how they were going to do it. They coordinated with all those talents that were involved, the trainers and the jockeys and the owners. I mean, everybody's involved. Collaboration, certainly. And there were some completions. Same kind of principle. Same principle. It looks like we've run out of time again. I'm getting my neck chopped here. So I'm going to say good day, good evening. And I'm going to make a plan on continuing this next week because there's so much more to examine about this, and some of it's purely delightful. I know you'll enjoy next week perhaps more than the other two. Thanks.